Hi guys, welcome back to my channel, and in today's video I'm so excited to be doing this because this is just a kind of sit down, chat with me, like girl talk sort of video. So grab a glass of wine or some tea. So one thing that inspired me to do this video was that a couple weeks ago I was talking to a girlfriend and she was like talking about like a breakup that she was currently going through, and she was like basically saying something along the lines like, well, that he had like broken up with her and she was like devastated. And I said something along the lines of like, oh my gosh, like I've been there, or like my ex-boyfriend did that similar thing. And she was like what? And I was like, yeah, just because I'm married doesn't mean that I've not gone through a breakup. And she was like, wow, that's like just so refreshing to hear. And I thought, really? I just assumed that everyone has kind of dated people and like broken up and stuff. And she was like, well, like I didn't expect that from you, and like you just seem so nice that it just seems like everything would have just happened so seamlessly. And I was like, no, not at all. So I know that these kind of stories are a lot of fun for me to listen to and to be a part of, and I love this kind of stuff. So this is what inspired me to just sit down and really share with you guys my love stories? No, my my dating stories and my past relationships, and how I got to meet Adam and how I got to where I am now, which is married. So I was never one to really date around. I would either be in a committed relationship or single. I guess my love story starts when I was about 9, 10. So I was in 5th grade. Finally, one day I saw this boy that I just thought was absolutely beautiful, and I just found him super interesting for some reason. But unfortunately, he was not in my class. So I was just like, I'm never gonna get to talk to him. So I just walked past him, see him every morning before I got to class, and that was about it. So that same year, my brother had started kindergarten, and he would always talk about this girl that was in his class and that she was like really chatty and stuff. And one day my parents said, oh yeah, like we're gonna be having dinner at, this girl's parents' house. And I was like, oh, like what a drag, like I'm like 11 and I don't want, to be hanging out with these little kindergartner kids. But anyway, so we get there and, I meet the girl and the family and stuff, and we're about to sit down to have dinner, and I notice a family photo in their living room, and this boy from my grade was in the picture, and I was like, who's that? And she's like, yeah, that's my brother. So I was like, oh my gosh, like I'm at that really cute boy's house. So he wasn't home. I think he was like at practice or something. So anyway, my parents said that they were like getting ready to leave. This is like obviously after dinner, and I was really like bummed that I didn't get to see him. And right as we were about to leave, he like comes in and he was like, oh, hi, like, and of course he like recognized me from school and stuff. And he was like, hey, like, let me like show you my stuff. And he was like totally, I guess, showing off the way like a 10, 11-year-old does. I don't even remember what he showed me, but I think it was like his like football cards or something like that. I don't know, but I remember him like showing me his like toys basically, and I was just like, oh my gosh, like this is so cool. And I was like, oh my god, he has like no clue that I have like this huge crush on him. And he, he's clearly like talking to me the way he would like talk to his like little sister. So that kind of like just went on. Like we would occasionally see this little girl's parents and family, and occasionally I would see him at school. And one day they were over our house for dinner, and his mom like says it at the table, and it made it like completely awkward, but she was just like, oh my god, he has like such a crush on you. Like every time we come over or see you guys, he's like talking about you. And I was just like, oh my god, like in order for him to have a crush on me, that he must know that I have a crush on him. And this was like so awkward and so weird or whatever. But it was like the first time, like, of course, in life that I had a crush on someone and they liked me back. And this was like my first serious crush. I mean, I guess at 11, if you can consider that serious. So yeah, it was, of course, like really sweet, like really innocent. Anyway, so kind of fast forward a couple years later, and we remained friends. We actually became really good close friends. Like eventually they moved across the street from us, so at this point we were really close, like literally close. And so we would hang out occasionally after school and stuff. And by this time now I'm in high school, so had never really dated anyone officially. And that same crush was still kind of always there. So we started kind of hanging out again, and again, like the families seeing each other a little more often. And one day, like we just went over, I think it was like over the summer, and we just like started hanging out and we kissed for the first time. So it was amazing and special and weird all at the same time. And, but I mean, at that age, I mean, I was like 15, but I had kind of had like, I guess, feelings for this guy for like 5 years or so. So, I mean, at that point in life, that was like a third of my life. Like, so it seemed like, a really big deal to finally, kiss him, and the fact that he was my first kiss and all of that. So, but so that summer we ended up going to Europe on vacation, and I kind of like talked about it. I mean, and like this is so selfish and so 15-year-old of me, but I was kind of like, hey, I'm gonna be in Europe. Like, I don't think we should like be together, even though we kissed and stuff. And he was like, why not? It's only like a couple weeks and you're gonna come back and you're gonna be living across the street from me. And I was just kind of like, no, like I need to be free and I need to live my life. So then when I was a senior in high school, we were kind of studying this indie film that I thought the actor was like so phenomenal and amazing, and of course cute, because that's all I knew of him really. And so finally one day I met the guy that was in this movie, the main star, I guess, of this indie movie. And he was like 6 years older than me, so I was like 18, he was like 24, and I was like, like he's so much older, but he's like so cool, and he was like living in LA and all of that, and he'd been in like other kind of movies and stuff, and so I was just like, oh my god, he's like so cool. And we kind of like started talking one day, and he was like, it was like around prom time, and he was like, oh my god, like I never went to my prom. And I was like, yeah, I'm probably not gonna go either. He's like, no, you have to go. He's like, you're a girl, you should definitely go to prom. And I was like, I don't know, it was probably like silly and cheesy and whatever. Like I'd never gone to like a school dance. He was like, no, you should like totally go. And I was like, oh my gosh, like the guys I like go to school with are like so lame. And he was like, oh my gosh, like what if I came with you? And I was like, fuck yeah. Anyway, like we went to prom. It was like a ton of fun and stuff. And for I guess like 2 weeks, like totally in love with him. And he was like living in LA and all these things. So it's like, it's not gonna work out, obviously. We would talk occasionally, but as friends, and that was kind of it, and didn't talk to him for years after that. So then my 11-year-old crush and I kind of started talking again. Right after high school graduation, somehow we kind of reconnected again. My first crush from when I was 11, and I felt like at this point it seemed like he was older, he was like more mature, and I thought super sexy. So it was just like, like finally date this guy. Like he's so incredibly sweet. And so we made it official, and absolutely in love. I mean, of course, I thought like a part of me felt like he waited for me and he's like loved me through this. I did care deeply about him. Like I said, we had known each other for a long time, and he was basically like my best friend that then turned into my boyfriend. And I think that deep down was always my fear, because it's like he was just so great and amazing as a friend, and of course I was attracted to him, but I didn't want that to ever ruin our friendship. I also didn't want to like live life forever thinking like, what if he was the one? So at 18, apparently, that's when we decided that was the right time that we were adults, and that we should just go for it. So yeah, we were super in love. We dated for about 2.5 years. Everything was for the most part great. And a couple of months after 2.5 years, he just seemed to be a little bit distant, and I had no idea how to deal with that. And occasionally I would ask him like what's going on and stuff, but I feel like his mom would always like bring up like, hey, like they're gonna get married one day, and I was kind of like, probably that's what's gonna happen, but it's not like where we are right now. Like, I mean, I still had to go to school and, you know, all of that, and we were just incredibly young. So a part of that did freak me out sometimes, but at the same time, it was kind of like, we do love each other and everything's fine, so we're just gonna go with the flow. And finally one day I was just like, I can't take it anymore. He just seems incredibly distant. We still lived pretty close to each other, so we'd see each other every day. And so he finally was like, hey, I don't know what's going on, but I feel terrible, but I feel like I love you, but I also feel like I'm smothered and I feel like I need space. And I mean, all of these words literally hit me like a ton of bricks. I mean, I honestly thought this was going to be the person that I married one day. And I didn't know how to deal with such, I guess, intense emotions. And I really felt that as a girlfriend, I was the least clingy you could be as a girlfriend. And so for him to say that, it literally, I felt like I had no room to be more open other than breaking up. So I kind of saw that that's where it was going. And, you know, we tried talking it out, and he seemed to continue to feel the same way. So I was like, I guess this is what we have to do. And he was like, well, like, let's not like break up. Like, let's just go on a break. And we tried that for like a couple of days, and then he'd be like, this is like the biggest mistake. Like, I clearly love you. I want to be with you. And it felt like we would try this for like a week or a couple of days, and it would always just go back to the same thing. So I was like, you know what, maybe we do just, he actually brought it up. He broke up with me. He was just like, I feel like I can't do this. And, you know, I really just, it's like up and down every day for me. And, I'm not happy. And I was like, oh my gosh, like for someone that like I've cared for so long, and I thought he cared for me for so long, and I'm making him unhappy. It was just like, it was a lot. It was a lot of emotions to process. It was basically, he had made me feel like some of the most beautiful emotions that I had ever felt, and then he was also making me feel like the most unworthy, most disgusting feelings I had ever felt too. So I genuinely was just actually heartbroken. I feel like I think I lost, I want to say like 6 pounds in like 1 month. It was like crazy. Like I just had no appetite, and my mom was just like, you have to eat. And it was just like, I couldn't. And the more I wanted to really feel like, you know, like I have to move on. Like, you know, I'm still me. I still have a life to live. This relationship that ended or failed or whatever, like this doesn't define me. And I that's what I tried to tell my brain, but that's not what my brain and heart was feeling. Luckily, I think one of the best things that did happen was my parents had just bought a different home, and we ended up moving. And I felt like that was literally like medicine, because it was, there was nothing else that like reminded me of him. It was like a fresh start, a new room, a new house. And it was cleansing almost. So I finally I boxed everything, and I was like, I'm not ready to throw it away, but I need it to be out of sight, like completely. And so yeah, it did start to feel a little bit better, better in the sense that I could eat here and there. But I think that was probably like one of the first times that I felt like depression. And yeah, it was extremely scary. And anyway, so I finally like went back on like social media, and, you know, I was thinking like, should I turn my profile back to single, you know, like that whole like really important stuff. And being back on social media, I realized that he was dating someone new. And it was kind of, it was weird, because you would think that that would have been what hurt the most. But honestly, that literally, it was like a complete 180 for me. It was like I saw the story in a completely different light. At first, it was like the love of my life. Like I thought I was gonna marry him, and like he's just going through a phase, but he'll, we'll get back together. Like this was the mentality that I was in at first, and I think that's why it was so hard and so painful. And I think seeing that, especially because we had said we're just gonna go on a break and I just need some space. So deep down, I really thought for sure we're going to get back together. And I felt like seeing that, and not that that would be the end all and be all, just that this one person he was with, now he was gonna marry or something. But for me, it was that moment. It was just completely over, done, deal, sealed, and gone. I think that's when I realized about myself how absolutely like loyal and monogamous that I am, that to me it's always kind of like been, it's like all or nothing. It's like you want me or you don't. It was one thing when we were kids and had crushes on each other, but at this time we had a commitment and we were adults, and the fact that it was kind of like he was trading me and this relationship that we had and this commitment that we had. I knew all of his friends, he knew all of mine, so clearly I knew that this was someone new. It wasn't someone like, oh, he's known this person, or he goes to school with this person. This was just someone completely new. And so that was like my cue. I was like, okay, this is it. I just need to move on. So I was like, you know what? Like I need to get out of the house. I need to start hanging out with people. So I started doing that. I started, hanging out with my girlfriends and going out, not like to clubs or parties or things like that, but like just getting together with my friends. And I met this new guy, which seemed amazing, but of course, like my mind was completely like just all over the place still, in terms of getting in a relationship with someone. And so, yeah, my ex finally called me one day, and of course, like this is the call that I had been dreaming of for the last couple of weeks, basically, up until I saw that he was dating someone so quickly. So he calls and he was like, hey, so how have you been? And I was like, fine, I guess. I mean, like, it's been like weeks. It was weird because it went from talking daily, multiple times a day, to just cold turkey, bye, and now I'm dating someone new. And he was like, yeah, so, I mean, I've just been thinking, and like, you're the love of my life, and we belong together, and I just realized through this of like dating someone new that nobody compares to you, and blah, 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 the whole like spiel, and how this girl that he had been dating was sort of had an alcohol problem, and that she had thrown up all over herself, and he had to like clean her up and tuck her into bed, and that it was just not the life he saw for himself, and he realized how amazing that I was in that moment. And I was just like, ew. Like, that's when you realize that I was the one, when you were cleaning up some other girl's puke. At this point, I feel like that emotional string that connected us was just so snapped and done, and I was just kind of like, who is this guy? Like, I feel like I don't even know him. And he was like, well, like, I feel like we should talk. And I'm like, about what? Like, about what you just said? And he was just like, yeah, like, we just need to have a conversation, like, in person. And so he ended up coming over, we ended up chatting, and of course it's the same thing, like, hey, I just miss you, and now that, like, every time I, like, leave work, I just wish that that you were at my place, like, waiting for me, and, I wish I got to see you every day like I used to, and, like, we should just, like, get back together. And it was like, he just went back into it, like, talking to me, like, sweetly, and, like, touching my leg, like, if we were, still dating. And I was kind of like, whoa, like, this is no longer your territory. Like, do you need to start over if you even like want to talk to me, or talk to me on a daily basis or whatever? And he was just like, yeah, I mean, like, I love you. And he was definitely a much more like free-spirited, much more laid-back person than I ever have been. So, I mean, I guess the way he was acting was strange to me, but at the same time, it's like, this is how he's always been. But so I was like, you know what? like, maybe I should give him a chance. Like, what, like, maybe I'll regret it again later or whatever. And so I asked him and I was like, you know what? But like, I feel like the end of our relationship really was just, it kind of dwindled off into nothing, basically. And it, like, I don't want to do that again. Like, if you truly feel in your heart that, it was a mistake and that you do truly just want to be with me, then I'd be willing to give it a shot. But like, what do you feel? And he was like, honestly, like, I don't know. Like, I don't know. He was like, in a month or in a week, I could go back to feeling the same way I felt when we broke up. But right now, what I want is you. And I was just like, whoa, okay, that's what I needed to hear. I am not, some dog chew toy that when you need me, here I am. And when you're over me, you can just throw me off to the side, go hang out with whoever you want to, and then I'll just be here waiting for forever. Like, that's just not a pattern I saw for my life. And I was just like, yeah, no, I can't do that. And he was just like taken aback, like, what, like, why wouldn't you want me? Like, that I broke up with you, so you should be wanting me. And then he started this whole like blame game of, we broke up and it's been like 6 weeks went by and you never once contacted me. You didn't fight for me. And I was kind of like, you said you needed space. I mean, I feel like that would be clinging on to you, or like fighting for you would be the complete opposite of what you just asked me. So anyway, I do have to say, completely messed with my mind. Everything that I thought I knew about myself, everything I thought I knew about love, it was just like, it was like the first time you fall in love, just smooth and easy and amazing and stuff, because you've never been hurt, there's nothing to compare to. But I felt like a part of me was afraid, like, am I never going to be able to like love again? Because forever I'm going to be thinking that, things are going to be great, and then this guy's just going to change his mind or whatever. So a couple months went by, and then it was Valentine's Day, and he was single, I was still single, and he called me up one day and he was like, let's just do dinner. Like, let's just do dinner as friends. It is Valentine's Day after all, and the last 3 Valentine's Day I spent with you. Why not, like, let's just do dinner? And I was like, okay, like, let's do that. It was actually really nice. We went with some other friends, and it was just a fun, nice dinner, and I thought that was going to be it. And at the end of the night, he could be incredibly sweet when he wanted to, but he had like this whole like surprise of, I think it was like balloons and chocolates and stuff, and it was like in his trunk, and he popped it open and he was like, hey, like, will you be my girlfriend? And he kind of like went in for a kiss, and I was just like, whoa, you totally said that this was like just dinner and stuff. And it was just like, yeah, no, like I can't do that. And I think he was really upset, and he was like, I took you out to dinner, like, this is like, I'm going above and beyond, and like, I feel like you're punishing me. And I was like, I'm not punishing anyone. Like, this is my heart, my soul, my being could not, like, I personally feel like I don't love you the way I did, and it will never be the same, because I feel like you basically crushed my heart and kind of pushed it off to the side, and like, now you just want to like pick up and go. And I couldn't do that. So I think that really upset him, and he was really annoyed that night. And it was kind of the guilt for me, because I thought, here I am, I feel like I used him, or I feel like but honestly, 100% honest, I thought, we could actually just do Valentine's Day dinner as friends. And so yeah, like, a part of me felt worse again. Like, I felt like a few days before Valentine's Day I was like feeling better, and here it was again, like, just guilt and like, what did I do wrong? I'm an awful person. No wonder I'm unlovable, and all of these awful thoughts. So I was like, you know what? I now need the space. I mean, clearly I can't be with you right now, so it's just better to have space. I give you space, you give me space. just think it's the best in order for us to heal and move on, basically. So this guy that I had met that I said that was like really nice and stuff, and I felt like one day I was just like, he is like incredibly attractive and he's super sweet and he treats me like a queen. So a couple months later, yeah, I start dating this guy and I felt like all hell broke loose. My ex-boyfriend found out, and it was like he just kept saying mean things about him. He didn't know him, but it was like making fun of his appearance, and I'm like, dude, this guy is so much hotter than you are. Not that that's what matters, but that's what he was attacking. So anyway, this guy was incredible. Like I said, he treated me like a queen. And something that I heard the other day, and it really hit me because I think it's so true. They said that like love stories, and there's so many sweet, amazing things to be said about your first love because it is your first love. But nobody talks about your second love. And your second love is what gave you courage and the hope that you could love again and could be loved again. And I do think that that is really true because I felt like that my second boyfriend was incredibly special, I think for that reason, that I felt the second boyfriend treated me far better than the first boyfriend ever did. But I guess I had him up on such a high pedestal because it was like, I'd known him for so long, and, I had loved him since I was a kid, basically, and we were best friends before that. But best friends don't always make a good lover or a good, partner. And, so that was, really great for a while, and I really do feel that we were kind of the same person in a lot of ways. We kind of just got along. And then it just started to feel, I don't know what the correct word is, just kind of stagnant, like it wasn't going anywhere. And so anyway, we decided to just kind of like break things off. But I think it was like one of like the best, it was very amicable, very, joint decision. And at that point I was like, you know what? Like, I feel like maybe I jumped into that too soon. And a part of me, again, the guilt and the what did I do wrong? So I was like, you know what? I just need to not date. I became obsessed with the gym and just eating healthy, and I'd occasionally go out with my girlfriends, but I didn't want it to be this whole like I'm out drinking every weekend kind of thing. And yeah, like the gym was literally my best friend. And in turn, obviously I got pretty fit and stuff. So it was just nice. Finally, I felt like I'm just focusing on me. I'm bettering myself. And it felt nice to not have a clouded mind or have my moods, change based on my relationship status. At that point, I think been single for maybe close to a year. And somehow he and I connected again, and I thought, maybe it just didn't work out the first time because I was still somewhat getting over my ex. He also had gotten out of a kind of long relationship. So, like I said, I really did feel that we were kind of like the same person and going through a lot of the same things. So we just figured, let's give it another shot. And the first month or so was great and amazing. And soon it just went back to previous time that we had dated. But I do have to say that a part of me then was relieved that like it wasn't the wrong time that I dated him, that it didn't work out. It was just, we are almost like too alike that we just didn't work, I feel. We split again, and I feel like at that point, like we continued talking. So after that, like here I was like again, like I'm just gonna go back to the gym and I'm just gonna focus on me. And then I met someone that was like completely different from any guy that I had dated. He was a complete like tree hugger. I thought he completely looked like Ashton Kutcher. That's a completely pointless fact, but I'm a visual person, and when people tell stories, I like to picture people. So that's just a visual for you. But yeah, he was incredibly sweet and stuff, but just so different, you know? I mean, it was like he was hiking all the time and doing all these outdoorsy things. And so I think I was just intrigued. So we dated for a little while, and I really thought, like, wow, I do really like this guy. He seems special and all of that. And one day he was like, let's do dinner. We like need to talk. And it was funny because normally up until then, I had always kind of, like, he'd be like, let's hang out tonight. Like, you pick a restaurant or you pick what we're doing. And it was always kind of me planning it, which I didn't really have a problem with. But anytime, like, whether it was, you know, somewhere like super casual or like sometimes even if it was a sit down restaurant, but like really casual, he'd be like, oh my God, this is like so fancy. And at first I thought he was like being funny, but then I realized like he actually thought that was fancy or whatever. And he'd always be like, let's just like hang out at a park or like let's do something outside, which again, it was like very different than what I guess people I dated, and it was different and interesting. And I was like, yeah, maybe I need to be more outdoorsy. And so this one day he was like, let's go to dinner, let's go here. And I was like, wow, okay, like he made plans. That's awesome. And so I get there and he was just like, yeah, like I've been thinking a lot about like life and all these things, and I feel like I want to move back to the state that he was originally from. And I was like, here it is, you know, breaking up once again. And if that's what you want to do, then yeah, like what are you going to do like for work and blah, blah, blah. Like we were just talking about it. And he was kind of like, well, like I can transfer the job I have here to there, blah, blah, blah. And so I'm thinking, okay, this is how he's nicely breaking up with me. But it was weird because I felt like that night he was being like more affectionate and more like, and I was like, is this just how he softens the blow? I was just completely confused. And I feel like at this point, again, I should probably like ask like where do you see us? But I was kind of like I give up. You know, I feel like this was like on a weekend. So midway through the week, he was like, hey, like let's hang out again and stuff. And I was like, because normally he would be like, I want to see you tomorrow. Like, what do you want to do and stuff. And it felt like lately it was like, he was like, let's meet here. Let's do this. And at this point, I was like looking at cosmetology school is about to start one soon. And so he was like, yeah, so I just realized, yeah, California is not for me. And I'm going to be like moving in a month. So I was like, you know what? I'm just going to ask. Like, I'm tired of these games. I'm tired of like waiting. I'm tired of figuring people out when I then just assuming things on my own. So I just asked him and he was like, yeah, so actually that's why like I, you know, wanted to come out to dinner and stuff. And he was like, I know this is crazy, but I was just wondering if you would consider moving with me. And I was just like, whoa, like we've been dating for like 2 months. And like, I think for me, it was the fact that he was very different, very intriguing, very exciting, but I wanted to get to know him. I mean, and I was about to start cosmetology school and he knew that. So part of me thought like that's really selfish because you're going back to your family. You have like basically a job kind of lined up, but this means something completely different for me. And I mean, although it was sweet of him to include me, I guess, but he said that meeting me had freaked him out a little bit because that I was someone he saw himself maybe possibly ending up with, but it freaked him out that he met me in California because that's not where he wanted to live, and he was just really afraid of getting really emotionally invested and then never leaving California. And I was like, well, like I feel like that's kind of what you're doing to me by making or wanting me to move to, you know, your home state. And like I've never been there, I've never lived there and stuff. And he was like, no, I totally understand. But I respected him, his honesty and his openness and his feelings, and just knowing that that was that important to him. We ended up splitting up. So then a couple months go by. One day I was like hanging out with one of my girlfriends and she had just gotten engaged, and she was just like, oh my gosh, you're single, like enjoy it. She was like, of course, like being engaged is amazing, and but she was like, I just felt like before I got engaged, it was like almost like this rat race to get engaged and all of this. And then she was like, now looking back, I wish I had just like enjoyed it and gone with the flow. And I was like, yeah, I'm gonna like totally embrace that mentality and live that way. And about 2 weeks later, I met Adam. So it's funny because when I finally parked to go into this restaurant to meet with Adam, my girlfriend called and I was on the phone and like I told her like, hey, I'm just about to go on a date with this guy. And it was funny because she was like, oh my God, like, how are you feeling? Do you like him? Like, how do you feel about it? And I was like, well, most likely he won't end up being my husband, so I'm just gonna go and I'm just gonna have fun. And it was so funny because I'd never said that before on a date, like before going on a date ever. And it was funny because that's exactly what ended up happening. Yeah, I have to say it was, I don't know, I kept thinking like it was just my attitude. Like I was just so laid back about everything, but it was easy. And it was like the first date or the first time I hung out with someone that I literally felt like I'd known for years. And it's so weird because I felt like Adam was like one of the first people. Adam was the first guy I had gone on a date that I didn't know really like friends of friends, or it's not like I grew up with him or anything like that. So I definitely thought like, oh, this is probably going to be awkward, but who cares? You know, I'll meet him and, you know, just see where it goes or whatever. I feel like we talked at dinner for like 3 hours and then we still went and got coffee because we weren't done talking. And I honestly don't know what we talked about, but it felt like I want to know more about you. I have to say, I don't think it was love at first sight for me. I do definitely think Adam was not my type at the time, and I guess I realized that I don't, I guess, have a type. But there was something about him that was just different and special, and I kept just thinking, like, he's Danish with a British accent. That's why he's different. But there was just something that was really authentic about him. I just felt like with a lot of California guys that I had dated, it's kind of like this, I'm interested in you, but I'm not going to show that I'm interested. And it was just like this, like, back and forth. And it's like, that's just so not like me. It's like, do you like me or you don't? I can take it if you don't, you know, but like, just no games. And originally Adam and I had planned to go on a date on Saturday, and then he like messaged me like on Thursday night and he was like, hey, we're supposed to be hanging out on Saturday, but like what if we did Friday instead? And I'm like, what a douchebag. He probably like got another date or has something else to do, you know, with his guy friends. And so he's like pawning me off to a lesser day, which is Friday. So we were hanging out on Friday, and like towards the end of the date, and we were like about to, you know, gonna go our separate ways and go home. And he was like, oh yeah, like I was just about to ask you, like, what are you doing tomorrow? And I was like, well, apparently you have plans. And he was like, what are you talking about? And I was like, well, we originally had set for Saturday, but then you were like, let's do it Friday instead. So here we are. And he was like, oh, I had no plans. I just thought, hey, I'm free Friday night. Like, why wait another night? Like, let's just hang out. And now we can hang out Saturday too, if you're available. And I was like, that's just different. That's cool. And I was like, yeah, but like, let's wait. Like, I need time to process all of this. And I was like, no, sorry, I'm busy tomorrow. And like totally like playing hard to get. And it was weird because as soon as I left, it was like I missed him. And in a different way that I guess I had like missed other guys that I had previously dated. It was like an actual, like, I want to be with him. Like, I want to be in the same room with him. I want to continue to talk to him. I want to get to know him. And I'd never felt that with any other guy. It was more like I'm really attracted to you and I'm really into you and you're really nice and it's fun to hang out with you. But it was never this, like, as a human, I want to spend time with you. I want to get to know you as a human, not as a partner, not as a, like, I want to know more about you and be around you. And so I was like, the next day I was like, well, that was stupid. Like, I should have not said that I had plans or whatever. But I was like, I'm going to stick it out. And so then Sunday I actually had a date with someone else, and I felt kind of bad, but I was like, sorry, I can't Sunday. And then like Monday comes around, he's like, let's hang out Monday. And I was like, no, you're like in the city and after work, I can't do that. And he was like, fine, like if you're not gonna come down. And this had been like 3 days. He was like, I'll come down to see you. We had been dating for a couple weeks at this point. And then my high school prom date was magically like moving back from LA back into the Bay Area, and was like, hey, like let's hang out. I'm like gonna be back in the Bay Area. And because technically we had never dated, it was like, yeah, why not? Like I would love to see him. I mean, it wasn't like I was seeing an ex-boyfriend or something. And I felt like Adam and I weren't completely exclusive yet. I mean, we had been talking, hanging out for like a couple weeks, but so yeah, like I went out with my prom date, and I was like, how like cool, like to see you, like what have you been up to? And he was like, yeah, I'm done with Hollywood, I'm done with like the movie things, and I have like this new project that I'm gonna do, and blah blah blah. And he like came on his motorcycle, and it was like a really cool hip motorcycle. And so I was like, you know, I thought it was gonna be like getting together almost like with a brother, like, hey, we like go way back, and you know, like what's new with you? And it was like, it seemed like he was being really flirty, and I was like, no, I'm just like reading this wrong. And you know, he had like just broken up with his LA girlfriend and blah blah blah. And so he's finally like, what's up with you? And I was like, yeah, so I've like started dating this guy, and I think I really like him. And like, because we always kind of just talk like that, it was, you know, like we were just friends. And he was like, what? And then he's like, let me see a picture of this guy. And he like, I showed him a picture of us or whatever, and he was like, what are you doing? Like, this is so like wrong for you, like he's not right for you. And like, I always thought that we would eventually, you know, like get married. I really thought you were the one. And I was like, what? Like, you lived 7 hours away from me, and you knew that I was like completely in love with you at like prom, but you know, you were like off doing your thing. So you thought you were gonna like do your thing, and then when you come back, I was just going to be magically single like 10 years later, and like here with open arms waiting for you. And he was kind of like, yeah, like I honestly thought that you were the one. Like we're just like so alike, and I think that like we would just really like get along. And I was like, how insulting. Like, and so I was like, well, yeah, I have to go and stuff. I mean, it was good to catch up with him, but I thought that was like super strange. But that also made me, I feel like, more like want to give Adam a bigger chance and really like get to know him better. And part of me really appreciated Adam even more for who he was and all of that, because he really was so refreshing compared to any other guy that I had dated. So we dated for about 2 years, and we started talking about, you know, getting married and moving in together. But I personally didn't really want to start living together without being married. And my parents are pretty liberal, but this was just me. Like, this was my rule. I was like, I don't want to like move to a different city, you know, start a new job, and if you're not like committed to me. Like, that was just my idea or whatever. So we would talk about it, and he was like, yeah, like of course, like I want to marry you, and I want you to move in, you know, we're tired of doing this kind of like long distance relationship. And so we were, you know, thinking about getting married and all of that, and figuring out like, are we going to be able to afford this? Like, are we going to have a big wedding or a small wedding? And like, I'm the only daughter in my family, so we definitely thought we should do something pretty special. And a lot of my family's in Europe, all of Adam's family is in Europe. And so we thought, like, if we're gonna like invite people to do something pretty special, so we were thinking somewhat big wedding, you know, 100 people or so. And then my dad had a terrible work accident, which I have mentioned in the past, in probably several of my videos. And it kind of just put our entire lives like kind of on pause. Not just mine and Adam's, but my parents, my brothers, a lot of people around us. And And we were like, what do we do? I mean, I was finishing up school. I did want to start this new job and I did want to move to the city. Just thought like, why not just get married quickly, move in, and we can have a big celebration, a big party later. I mean, when my dad had this accident, it was, I mean, I don't even like to go and think about that time in my life because it was, I felt like with the exception of Adam being, in my life, it was definitely the darkest time of my life. And it was tough on everyone, emotional and physically in every way. And like a part of me really just, I didn't even know at that point if like my dad could possibly walk me down the aisle. And it was just, and it was at that point it felt like material things, everything, just nothing meant anything but family and love and, friends that, basically became family. And at that point it was kind of like, we just want to be married. We just want to be living together. There is no way that we can wrap our minds even around having this big wedding and celebrating. I mean, so yeah, that's what my dad kept saying, like, I don't want you to put your life on hold, like because of what happened and stuff. So I was like, you know what, like I'm gonna go through with, I'm gonna start this new job. I am gonna move, but I do want to be married. So we ended up having a courthouse wedding, and that is one of the reasons why I've never shown photos. And this is the first time ever that, I've talked about this. So we actually may be renewing our vows later this year. Later this summer will be 100 months that Adam and I are together. And so if we end up doing something like that, I would definitely want to share it with you guys. Let me know if that's something that you guys are interested in. If we do it this summer, of course I would want to do the whole white dress and the whole thing. I mean, still keeping it pretty small, just intimate family, close family. I feel like my audience, like you guys are my friends for like a long time. And this is just something that I had never really opened up about and talked about. And I didn't want you guys to think that I'm like somehow keeping it, so private. So yes, I hope you got to know a little bit more about me. I hope that some of these stories have hopefully made you feel better if you are going through a breakup or something like that. And I think one of the biggest lessons that I have learned in life is anytime something doesn't work out and I'm so sad about, something a million times better falls in its place, always. I don't think I've ever not had that happen. But I promise that with time, if it didn't work out, it really is for a reason, as cliche as that sounds. But if you are meant to be together, you guys will find a way back into each other's lives. And if not, it was for the better. And again, as cliche and silly as that sound, it's the absolute truth. Not that I'm an expert by any means. I guess my advice is if you're single, enjoy it. If you're in a relationship, enjoy it. Cherish the person you're with. Don't take them for granted. Love them every day. And if you're still looking for that right person, just know that they are out there and you will find them. So anyway, thank you guys so much for watching. Thank you for listening to me. If you haven't subscribed yet, please do so. Also click the little bell notification symbol for any time that I make a new video. You will just get a notification just on your YouTube feed or wall. Also, if you don't follow me on Instagram yet, you should. It is Sylvia X Reese. And I always leave links to all my social media in the description box down below. So thank you guys so much for watching. I love you guys, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.